Number 5. Hopper from A Bug's Life. After the success of Toy Story 1, it was only a matter of time before Pixar gave us their second ever movie.
Unfortunately, this next entry on my list deals with one of my very real, early, genuine fears. Flying bugs.
A Bug's Life follows Flick the Ant, a lonely inventor who accidentally gets in the way of the rest of his colony's work, gathering food for their cruel grasshopper protectors. One day, however, warning horns are blown and the ants are forced into hiding. Flick accidentally destroys their offering of food, and the grasshoppers are furious.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, where's the food?
Jesus!
The grasshoppers swarm the ants' underground home and start harassing them. This scene is made even scarier if you've imagined yourself in this situation, tormented by giant flying bugs like these. And then we meet their leader. Hopper silently walks among them for a moment, only to say this.
So where is it?
Pardon me?
Where's my food?
That shout alone was enough to scare me. But what makes him worse is that he's like this all the time. One moment he's calm, the next he's punching his own men in the face.
Sometimes it's played for laughs, but other times it's straight up murder.
Did that hurt? Nope. How about this?
Hopper is one of Pixar's most intimidating villains, and the first villain to ever truly unnerve me. He was not just a power-hungry villain. He was big and menacing, doesn't underestimate his enemies, he had vicious underlings, and is willing to make sure everyone obeys him or else. If Hopper on the big screen wasn't bad enough, how about an animatronic version of Hopper, which I saw during my trip to Disneyland, Florida? Hopper, the ruler of the number 5 spot on my list.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back!
Number 4. Spongebob Squarepants. Created by the late great Steven Hillenburg, Spongebob has become one of the most influential kids shows of all time. This lovable yellow square has been entertaining us with nautical nonsense for over 20 years.
But across all those 20 years, SpongeBob has certainly had his fair share of questionable moments. And unfortunately, again, this next entry on my list severely triggered my early fear of flying bugs. Wormy.
The episode starts off with Sandy the squirrel going out of town. SpongeBob and Patrick are invited to the tree dome to look after her surface pets while she's away. Among those pets is Wormy, who SpongeBob and Patrick instantly fall in love with. They spend the whole day having fun and having a great time. Eventually, SpongeBob and Patrick go home for the night, where it's revealed that Wormy isn't a worm at all. He's a caterpillar. That night, he undergoes metamorphosis and turns into a butterfly. The following morning, SpongeBob and Patrick return to find Wormy missing, they find his empty husk, and this strange winged creature in its place. They then deduce that this thing is a monster and that it has eaten Wormy.
Now this kind of idea seems harmless enough in a kid's show, but then this happens.
He left his best friend Ribbon behind.
What the hell was that?
Congratulations, reality! You made a butterfly scary. But uh-oh, it gets caught in a bubble and flies into town, causing a mass panic. Just like with the misadventures of Flapjack, SpongeBob wasn't shy about changing the animation style to amp up the visuals. When done right, this formula can make a funny scene funnier.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
And a creepier scene creepier, just like with Wormy's live action shots.
This wouldn't be so bad if this was the only time they showed this, but they pull this stunt not once, not twice, but 3 times throughout this whole episode, rendering this whole thing unwatchable. The strange thing is, the bug footage isn't a butterfly at all. It's a fruit fly. The footage was taken from an episode of Bill Nye talking about insect compound eyes.
But we didn't know that! We saw this the same way SpongeBob saw the hash-slinging slasher.
Wormy. Buzz off.
Pesky bee.
Number 3. As a UK kid, I grew up with Pingu. This show about the claymation adventures of a young penguin were the UK's answer to Gumby. With its slapstick humor and relatable lead, Pingu was a classic for me as a kid. There are moments in this show that still make me laugh to this day.
But there are still moments that still creep me out to this day, and anyone who's seen the show knows exactly what episode I'm talking about. Pingu's Dream.
This episode opens up with Pingu taking a nap and having a dream. But there is no indication that he is dreaming. There's no rippling filter effect, or even a strumming harp. As far as we know, he's just woken up, his igloo house floats away, his bed sprouts legs and runs around, and then... Who the hell looked at this giant walrus and said, "This would fit in the Pingu universe"? Look at Robbie. That's the size of a seal in Pingu's world. But look at this thing! This thing is way too big. It's like a Godzilla monster. It's not made of clay unlike everything else. Its eyes roll into the back of its head. It's got disgusting human teeth instead of tusks, and it tries to eat Pingu, but settles for his bed. This monster frightened many children, including me. The way it peeks in from behind the background sparks the same sort of fear as the kids from episode 1 of Attack on Titan.
This got such a negative backlash that they banned the show from airing in the US, and this episode never aired on UK TV again.
And how does this terrifying tale end? Pingu waking up and crying to his mother about it.
Yay!
The giant walrus from Pingu. Truly the stuff of nightmares. Number 2. Do you ever have one of those childhood shows you always watched, but was also the one that sparks the most emotion out of you? The one that scars you above all others? Well, for me, that was the Teletubbies. I think the only reason we liked the Teletubbies as children was because we weren't young enough to know better, or to object. It was just always on, and half the time made no sense.
This nonsensical creativity would tie into my next scary item on this list. The windmill segments.
At the end of every episode, the windmill of Teletubbyland would spin and create a magical moment to end the show. On paper this sounds fine, but they're executed so badly. Well, most of them. Now, don't get me wrong, some segments are fine, like the animal parade, the growing tree, and the 3 sailing ships, despite their tacky CGI.
But the other 4 were dreadful!
There's a segment with a badly animated stop-motion rendition of Little Bo Peep. Their stilted movements in real life just look terrible and off-putting. There's the segment with a house appearing out of nowhere, and its cringy puppet inhabitants singing a random song in gibberish. The gibberish and the fact that his eyes roll into the back of his head like Belle Delphine is just plain wrong. And then there's the segment of a creepy CGI teddy bear tap dancing in a flying carousel.
You'd think this CGI bear would be enough to give everyone nightmares. But no. The one segment that everyone remembers and everyone hates is the bear and the lion.
First of all, listen to this.
It's the bear, and I'm coming.
Now, look at this.
I'm the bear, with brown fuzzy hair.
You're an abomination!
This bear is just plain creepy. Its flat 2D shape in live action, the fact that its hinged jaw opens from one side, the way it silently skates across the landscape on its wheels, and the fact that it's hard to tell how big this thing is. Is it toy-sized? Is it human-sized? Or is this what King Kong used to play with? And if you thought the bear's face was unnerving enough, it likes scaring its audience by playing peekaboo, sticking out its tongue, and rolling its eyes.
Here's a rough recreation of every child who watches this scene for the first time.
What the what?
I'm gonna break you!
The bear starts playing hide and seek. While she hides, you hear a terrifying roar so loud and strong, it blows away the clouds.
And if you thought the bear was bad, just wait till you see the lion.
I am the scary lion.
Well, I'm convinced.
This thing should not be scary, but its constant growling and permanent death stare make it impossible to keep your underwear dry. Unsurprisingly enough, this sketch was banned for being too scary for kids. It was edited over the years to make it less frightening, but the damage was already done, and everybody who's seen them is still haunted by them. They may look like this, but they're essentially this.
Luckily, these two never appear again, and with this new reboot of the Teletubbies now in full flush, hopefully the producers have learned their lesson and that they won't be producing any more scary imagery in the years to come.
The Bear and the Lion. No amount of editing will ever make this okay. Or this.
Now before we get into number 1, here are a few honorable mentions.
A two-way tie between Shrek and Monsters, Inc. I didn't like the idea of monsters in my closet, full stop, so the idea of having a big scary monster as the lead of a movie didn't sit right with me. So for a long time I didn't watch these two until a bit later in my childhood. Same applied with The Incredible Hulk. The Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. Everybody talks about her, everybody was scared of her, but she's talked about a little too much for me to put her on the list. Bruce the Shark. The number one reason I didn't want to watch Finding Nemo in the cinema. The Ghostbusters librarian?
Ready? Get her!
Enough said.
And now, the number one scariest moment from my childhood.
So, what could be worse than all these nightmarish characters from children's television? How about a scare that taught me a lesson? A moment that was likely supposed to be funny, but came across to me as a horrifying shock. So, who here's heard of Home Alone 2?
Bet you didn't see this one coming, did you? The story of a young boy alone at Christmas time, fending off the wet bandits to save the day. This time, taking place in New York.
Now, out of both Home Alone movies, I saw the second movie first with my grandparents when I was 6.
Up until now, the movie has been comedy gold, with young Kevin McAllister wandering New York, only to discover the wet bandits are back and robbing a toy store full of charity money. After luring them to his uncle's abandoned house, which is closed off for renovations, Kevin's previously set up booby traps are set up and ready to kill.
Oh, you think I'm joking? Well, there's a reason I put this at number 1.
Some traps are harmless and silly, while others are likely to blow you to pieces. Everything up till now I can handle. Until Marv falls into the basement, where Kevin has rigged a sink up to an electric generator.
And right before this scene, my gran looked at me sternly and said, "This is what happens when you touch an electrical outlet."
Goddamn this moment. God damn this moment. This scene of Marv getting electrocuted will be burned into my brain until the day I die. This scared me so bad, I ran out the room and locked myself in the bathroom for hours. You expect this sort of abstract pain in Tom and Jerry cartoons, but not in real life to a young child. It is terrifying. Is this what happens when you handle an electric plug or socket? Okay, sure, I'm seeing it now in real life, so I believe you.
To this day, I don't know if my gran knew that this moment was going to be in the movie or not, but regardless, it scared me straight.
To this day, I've never been properly electrocuted or mishandled any electrical devices since. And it only took this bearded, screaming skeleton to accomplish that. The electrocution scene from Home Alone 2. The number 1 scariest moment from my childhood.
Suck brick, kid!
And there you have it, my top 15 scariest moments from childhood. Now that I'm grown up, I've practically conquered almost every fear on this list. But with my childhood behind me, who knows what the adult world has to offer in terms of scares. And trust me, there are some scary moments out there which I dread looking forward to as an adult. Ranging from a pink flesh-eating slime from outer space, a mad scientist who merges with a fly through teleportation, the occasional internet jump scare, and my future mortgages. See you in another 25 years. So until next time, stay fresh, and thank you for watching.